Okay, so next one is that's my last one.
Yeah.
Whether will the cannabis ever become legal in Korea? That's that's something that everyone knows here. Like whoever lives here, it's like any drug is like completely forbidden in Korea, and it's like super. Like I wouldn't even want to imagine what would be the consequences, like getting caught like smoking weed right now. That would be really bad.
Yeah.
Even though like when Koreans they fly back to Korea, they sometimes get randomly like tested, like the hair.
Yeah. That is actually an interesting point, though, that Korean law applies to Koreans outside Korea.
Right. Yeah.
Completely foreign concept, I think, to a lot
Yeah.
of Westerners.
And even as a foreigner, I think you could get in trouble if
Yeah,
you were on
technically.
vacation in your home country, and even though like cannabis is legal in your home country, and
Yeah.
you come back to Korea and you test positive, that would be a big issue, I think.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's been, and I've seen. I wanted to talk about this one because I've seen on Reddit recently like some cannabis beer and cannabis like
Mm.
flavored some snacks
Yeah.
were coming out in Korea. So could this be the beginning of it? And also like those news like recently where like some kindergarten teacher were like growing
Yeah.
like a lot of cannabis like
Yeah.
in the basement.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought it would be interesting to
That is
talk about whether it would ever
be legal.
be
Yeah.
illegal in Korea or not.
Well, I think to kick it off, let me just say, as someone from California who dabbled legally for years in the medicinal side of this, cannabis flavored anything sounds terrible. It's not a
Uh,
good flavor.
there's the iced tea, have you ever drank
Yeah,
the iced tea like flavor
I'm
with,
all for edibles,
you know?
but like, you don't do it for the taste. I'm just gonna put that out there. That's a weird thing to me, as like flavored
I mean,
chips
it's
and
just it
stuff.
doesn't taste like
Yeah,
weed. It's just
yeah.
different.
Well, well, I just had to say that because I think that's such a bizarre thing. But for the question, will it become legal? I think there's two sub questions too, which is like, or one sub question would be not just will it, but should it?
Yeah.
And for me, again, I'm from California. I'm totally pro legalization in the US, Europe. But for me, Korea is such an interesting case because, like you say, every drug's illegal. Like when
Yeah,
people ask me
and
their drug policy,
yeah,
Korea,
and they don't have a problem with it.
yeah,
Like in Europe, it's already here, and like some countries it's legal, some
exactly.
countries are not, and like better be legal right now
Yeah,
because
it's everywhere anyway.
and also like that would cut the dealing and
Exactly. Criminals then sell it, and like there's a
yeah,
whole under subculture. But in Korea, it's not
it was
really.
never there. So
It's not here. Also, because like I don't think there's a huge market for it. Because people ask me what's the drug policy like in Korea when I'm back home, and my response is the drug policy is everything is heroin. Like
yeah,
that's basically the policy. Everything is as bad as heroin, so nothing is legal.
and it's like it doesn't exist. It's like
No.
homosexual. It doesn't exist, which
Yeah.
might be another topic for another
Yeah.
day. Yeah.
But that's the funny thing too, because drugs have just no, like, obviously drugs are in Korea, but in terms of like a social foothold in the US, I would say pretty much everyone over 15 knows someone
Yeah.
who smokes weed.
Usually drug inquiry is like I think more related to K-pop stars or
Yeah.
like entertainment
Yeah,
business.
the people go abroad a lot, like rich people.
Yeah.
But the thing is, since there's no foothold of people using drugs, my question on should it be legal is I don't think so, because
I mean, I wish, but
yeah,
I
but
don't
I just
think
think
so.
that like Korea has a, a I'm again not saying a lot of problems are caused by weed. Like I don't believe that arguments in the US that
Mm.
weed causes problems. But the thing is, I don't know that you would be able to predict what effect on society introducing any drug would have. Are you like kind of breaking the glass where it's like, oh, this drug we said was so horrible isn't actually that bad?
Yeah.
Are you letting? I just would think that the risk of like what does it do to society to introduce something that's been told is like really bad for decades? Like,
But the thing is, like, Korea are pretty bad at like drinking alcohol. It's like they're to me, it's like sometimes it's too much. It's too
yeah,
bad. Again, too much.
you
Like,
almost feel like weed would be better. It'd be like an alternative to alcohol. So maybe sometimes some people don't go drink, they go smoke, and then they
yeah.
don't go get wasted. Yeah,
I mean, you see like wasted people all the time on the street, and like, my wife had a call from the police like a few days ago, like because she was on the last like contact like
oh, for like a friend who was too
for
drunk or something.
yeah, yeah, but it
Yeah,
was not a friend. It was my wife customer. Like, and, like
your
police
wife is
officers like they didn't investigate that much to see like it was not like a friend, like just like a business contact.
yeah,
And like, yeah, I mean, how bad that is that the police has to call someone to
Yeah.
ask whoever that person leaves because she's too drunk to remember where she
Yeah.
leaves.
It is. The, I just don't know because I agree. You could, if any argument you make against weed in Korea, you could make the counter argument. Well, look at alcohol.
Yeah, but that's the weird thing
Yeah.
is that cannabis is like drug is completely illegal and it's seen as like the devil.
Yeah.
And on the other side, you have like alcohol that is totally
And
normal
alcohol
for
leads to a
people
lot of
to be.
issues: drunk driving, domestic abuse. Like in any country that
Yeah.
has alcohol, alcohol fuels a lot of problems. So it is
So
weird.
it's this like there are other things illegal in Korea also like gambling,
Yeah.
casino is illegal, and the thing is there is already like you say we don't know what it is to introduce like a new like drug to a country, but we know how bad are they at addictions,
Yeah.
whether it's like drug or alcohol or gambling. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that would make like such a big difference.
I don't know either. The other thing is actually, I've never even thought of this. It just came to me. Like the economics of it, does Korean climate even really like suitable for growing marijuana? Like if it's a completely imported thing, what's the incentive for the government to ever change it? Like we have to import it all anyway. Like
You can grow it indoor.
I guess that's true. Yeah, I think so. The question, will it? I would say yes. I think it would take a long time. But I think as the rest of the world liberalizes, you're going to have Koreans, young Koreans, more and more go on vacations to countries where it's legal. I think give it a few generations.
I think it will never happen.
Ever? I think
I,
I think 50 years it'll be legal. 2 generations, I think it would
50
be legal.
years, who knows? It's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time. Should it? I don't know. 50-50 for me.
I would say really not in the near future. Like you
No.
said, maybe 50
Yeah,
years.
it would
but-
need to be a generational change.
Okay, like it's time to move on to your
Yeah,
topics.
let's do it.
Which the first one being
The hot potato. So the first
keep
topic
that
I
one
wanted.
for last, maybe.
Yeah, this one. Do you want to?
No,
No.
let's go.
So the first topic here, obviously, when we're filming this is mid-February 2022. We've been in the pandemic now for 2 years, and a lot of people are talking about, the Omicron wave is here, and honestly, the government's policies on COVID are changing really rapidly. And I think there's a really common sentiment among foreigners, especially, and Koreans as well, but especially the foreign community, that like the Korean government doesn't know what it's doing. Like, what's
I wouldn't say that. Actually, on Reddit, if you read, like
Really?
most foreigners are a little bit more on your side, which is like thinking that we're like really
I think we
changing
swim in
rules.
different foreign online communities. Because I'm in the Facebook communities, and the people are pretty
Maybe
anti.
anyway, it's a topic that divides, and like
Yeah.
any COVID related topic
Yeah.
divide people
Yeah,
a
so
lot.
honestly, my point of view is Korea's response faltering? I don't think so. I think that we're just entering a new. I think Korea's has been pretty good about following the data, and so yes, things are changing, but I think it's changing in response to hospitalization numbers, serious case numbers, and when people say, "Oh, they're backtracking, they don't know what they're doing," I think it's, if you just look at the numbers, for the most part, it is just following the science. Now, I will say,
Should I start the timer?
yeah, maybe. I will say I agree that maybe the presidential election coming up has thrown a non-scientific incentive into the mix. But for me, I don't think it's faltering. I think they are moving not as fast as some people would like, but at pretty decent speed to get us back to normal.
Okay, so for whoever is listening, you might not know our situations, or maybe you do if you watched the previous episode, which I don't think you did. But he's working from home for an international company.
Correct.
I am working for a company, and I have a bar.
Yeah.
So I
Very
don't
different
think
perspectives.
We have very different perspective
Yeah.
on the matter, and I don't think it's really fair from you
Yeah.
to judge whether the response for like small businesses
Yeah.
was good enough or not.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think a lot of people are not affected the same. And clearly, I had the worst timing in my life, like trying to open a bar during the pandemic. I mean, to be fair, it was not
Definitely.
my intention. I signed the contract like a month before COVID started.
Yeah.
But it's just so. What we often say is that
Yeah.
Korea's response was really good at the beginning.
Yes.
And which is true. I think we are a country where like the social etiquette is really strong, and
Yeah.
like people really care about what other people think. So when the masks were mandatory on the streets, everyone were super diligent about wearing them, which is a
Definitely.
really good thing. The mask thing I think was great, and we still do it. I mean, even though they were like removing that rule, like saying like, oh, whoever got like 3 shots don't
Yeah.
have to wear a mask outside, no one would do it. No one would do it because Korea cared too much about others people
Yeah. Even
feeling
before the
and
pandemic, it
yeah,
was like if you have a cold, you wear a mask. Like,
right.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the whole like rules changing like
Yeah.
every 2 months. I mean, like they are announcing new rules or like change of rules every
Yeah.
2 weeks, which spoiler alert, they rarely change, to be honest. Some of them they've lasted for over 6 months.
Yeah.
And like we've had that like 9 p.m. rule, so the 9 p.m. curfew until like from December to now, which is February
Yeah.
20 at the time of the recording.
But if you look at the Omicron case got here, every other country Omicron came into, it was like weeks until it was the dominant strain and out of control.
Yeah.
But Korea, with things like that curfew, it took months. It gave them time to add more hospital beds. It gave them time. Like, I think the 9 p.m. curfew made sense at that time.
I'm not saying the 9 p.m. didn't make sense. I think it did make sense at the time. I'm saying that yesterday they changed the rule to 10 p.m.
I agree with you on that. That was silly. I think
that's
just
so
get rid of
silly.
it or make it like midnight. A material change that will actually change some behavior,
Yeah,
or get rid of it.
keep it or get rid of it or change something like a little bit more radical.
Yeah.
But like changing an hour is like, we don't want to piss everyone off.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that.
we're doing like one good thing for you guys. But
That's the election to me. That's the government not wanting to make a radical change weeks before an election, but not wanting to be seen as doing nothing. So they do nothing without doing nothing. I agree with that.
and the weird thing about the thing that I'm really pissed about the way they announce new rules and the way they handle it is, you know, if you don't read the news, you wouldn't even know rules changed. Like in Korea, we get like alert messages all the time about whether there's like a high tide in Jeju,
Yeah.
and like you don't get like the new rules
Yeah.
on the phone. Like like the government knows everyone's phone number. Like it's a super connected country. We don't get those new rules because they're like, hey, maybe if they don't check the news, they wouldn't know
Yeah.
that it changed. And a lot of people that I
I
talk
guess
to
I
at
think
work, it's
they
like,
change
did you know
often
the
enough.
rules changed? So I had no idea. Like the rules just there's this like silly video like someone made a satire about like it's a business owner is like, oh, you can be 4 today, no 6, no 3 here but 3 here but until 9, oh tomorrow it's until 10.
Yeah.
And it's like it's just they don't know what to do anymore. It's
So I don't
it
agree.
feels like they're just
Yeah.
like picking like a
don't
random number, like so this month's gonna be 10
Yeah,
p.m.
so it's like the South Park episode with the bailout where it's like, how are they deciding the monetary policy? And it was like chopping a chicken's head off and it runs around on a board and like dies on a
Yeah,
square. And it's like,
Yeah, exactly. That's how it feels. I'm like,
thing
only
is-
30 seconds to talk about this,
the
but
thing
it's
is,
so much to talk
I
about.
think for me, the anecdotal micro stories make it sound like a mess. Oh, that's always changing. But I'm thinking of the macro. Korea's economy is going to shrink the smallest of any OECD country outside of China. Like, if you look at a macro scale, I don't think the response has faltered. I think the response has been solid
Okay,
all the way through.
Even like the money they give to like small businesses and individual. No, like you guys, like in America and Europe, we've had stimulus check a lot more than Korea. Like Korea, as a business owner, in like 2 years of the pandemic, I received like 4,000, like 4,000 US dollar or
Yeah.
5,000, something like this. What the fuck? I mean, that's like that pays my electricity bill for 1 month.
Again, but the macro indicators, right? Korea's economy is going to shrink less than the US's, even though the US gave out so much more per capita stimulus money. Okay, we'll revisit this potentially when Lewis is back, because I know he has a lot to say on this as well.
It's like 5 minutes for this topic is like way too
The
short.
thing, I think this works better, like to kind of cut. I think this works better though for like creating tight YouTube videos. It's like a quick little argument, and like we can always revisit it part 2 next time. You know, like I just think someone's more likely to watch us argue for 5 minutes, and we could always think about doing even like bonus. You know, then like pick it up again and have like there's interviews on like Trevor Noah's Daily Show in US. Interview happens, and if it was a really good interview, they'll have like a bonus video on YouTube that's like the extended interview.
Yeah, right.
I think we can do that kind of thing, but I think it's good when we see the time. It incentivizes us to cut each other off a little more and like,
Right. No,
Yeah,
that's
and I
good.
think
And it's more dynamic for the viewers anyway.
Yeah.
So. Okay.
should we have like a little bonus round button? Each of us get to pick like one topic, like bonus
So we
time.
can have one more, one additional minute.
We each get to add like 1 minute for all 6.
That'd be good. Yeah,
That'd be
yeah,
good. I could see COVID. We all hit our bonus time on the COVID one.